Un saludo cordial. ¿Cómo estás? And by the way, just that last verb that I used is the topic of our conversation today. The verb estar. And this verb, no, is not related to the Spanish for star, like the ones I have in my background, but is indeed the star of this short video exploration. Let me share my screen with you guys. I want to um, put a few things here so that we can visualize some of the important aspects. As you know, the big challenge we have is that the English verb to be can have or has two Spanish equivalents, at least two. And one of them is our star verb today, but also there is the verb ser. Well, I want to keep things simple for now. We will have an opportunity to elaborate a little more on this question later, but for the moment, let's say that estar takes care of location and condition. It's an easy thing to remember, isn't it? To say location, condition, and that is your verb estar. So when in English, the verb to be is used to express either one of these attributes, then most likely we'll use the verb estar. Here, I'm sharing with you guys a little quote from a very good Spanish etymology dictionary. And it tells us that the verb estar comes from Latin root stare, which means to be standing up. Standing up. Here's another connection, which is also the root for words such as estado, that is state, or also status, estación, station or a season of the year, and even the word establo, which means stable, I guess, where the horses are doing the standing, right? So that's why we use the verb estar. For example, in the common greeting, ¿cómo estás? The one I used for my introduction just a few moments ago. ¿Cómo estás means how are you doing, right? How are you in the sense of what is your state, as we saw before, what is your condition? This is not asking you to describe your personality or your physical appearance. It is just how you are feeling in a particular moment. And we can use the same verb to talk about how not only people, but events, processes are doing. For example, the economy of a country. How is the economy? We'll use the same verb in Spanish, right? When we say, for example, estoy feliz, I'm happy. It's a condition. You're not saying that you're a happy person in general at that point, but that you are feeling. So it's interesting that the original sense of standing in a particular location is now used to express your standing in a particular status or condition or state of being. Does that make sense? I hope so. So also the very common phrase that everybody says, estoy cansado or cansada. I am tired. That's another condition. Hopefully, we can get out of it. Sometimes we spend long times feeling tired, but still the sense that that is some state in which you kind of enter and stand at that place for a while is also taken care of by the verb estar. With location, this is pretty interesting because, for example, I can say, yo estoy en mi oficina. right? I am in my office. I can inform someone by phone, by a text, for example, oh, estoy, or yo estoy in, let's say, Kansas City for a moment, right? On my trip over to whatever else. So this is my current location. Indeed, it's true for me now. Estoy en mi oficina. This is not true for me at this point. That would be cool. But I would say yo estoy en Tulsa, right? This is my current location. Now, we may think for a moment, well, this is, of course, a temporary location because I don't live, I'm not fixed, and I'm mummified into my office, although sometimes it looks like that, or in any particular location. I am a moving target. You know, people are, and animals, etc., etc. But the function of location with the verb estar is also used for permanent locations. For example, those of cities and towns. What if I say the photo está en Oklahoma, right? In the state, by the way, or estado de Oklahoma. Well, I don't think this town is planning to slide down over to Texas anytime soon, right? And so it's more or less a permanent commitment to Oklahoma, isn't it? Yet we use está not because it's permanent or temporary. Those things sometimes confuse this approach, but more because it's simply a location where something, whatever the something is, at, you know, forever or for an instant. So then we have seen said in other scenarios, right? And I want to address one that is confusing sometimes for students. The question, where are you from? De dónde eres, right? Where, from where are you is the literal translation. Notice that here we're not using the verb estar, such as in estás. This is a conjugation of the verb ser, isn't it? So my answer to that is yo soy de, right? And here you put the town or country. Yo soy de Costa Rica, I told you before, originally, right? Yo soy de Costa Rica, yo soy de California, or whatever is the case, right? Now, some people, when they see a word like, let's put for now, Costa Rica here, right? Well, that is a place, right? And a place, a country, is a location, isn't it? And shouldn't it be the verb estar? But notice this is different because here I'm telling the origin. That is the place where I popped up into this world, my birthplace. It's not my current location. And it would be false to say, for me right now, yo estoy en Costa Rica, because I'm not there now, but I was originated there. So notice that the combination here is the verb ser plus the preposition de. Whereas to express location, purely speaking, we use the verb estar plus the preposition en. And we have also used the verb ser in other cases in which English would use just to be, right? So, for example, ¿qué hora es? For expressing time, oh, son las 7 de la mañana, let's say, right? So, we're using ser. It's not a location. It's not a condition, really. It's not how something or someone is feeling. Therefore, we use ser. So, that also for description, right? When we ask the question, for example, ¿cómo es la profesora? X, right? ¿Cómo es la profesora? Notice that here, I'm not using any form of the verb estar. So when I ask someone, ¿cómo es la profesora? I'm not inquiring about how she's feeling, how she's doing, what state of being she's in, but I'm asking this other person to describe. A combination of the question word como and the verb ser is always asking for describe. What is she like? What is her personality? Is she cool? Is she boring? Is she this and that? So we do that with the verb ser. Ser, thus we're using it particularly at this point for origin, time telling, and description. Whereas estar, we're using it for location, condition. All right, I hope that helps y nos vemos pronto. Chao.